and welcome back to another episode of the Knee Slapping K-Pop podcast. I am Kayla, and today I am here with Sammi.
Hello.
And we are here to do some K-drama or just Asian drama content for the first time in a while this year.
Asian drama content.
Mm-hmm.
The best content that we've sort of had to put by the wayside because we've done 18,000 series.
I know, it really has been a lot this year. And it's been good content, and I know it's also performed well, but my god, it's a lot of work doing
It's so much
everything
work.
we decided we needed to do this year.
All we want is just this. We did this entirely because we wanted to do something way more chill, low-key, and did not require as much effort.
Yep, exactly. And this is a tropes, a K-drama, or Asian drama tropes video. So we have a list of good tropes and bad tropes. And these are good and bad in terms of like what we enjoy and what we think is fun to watch.
Exactly. And here's the thing. All of these, much like everything in life, every story has tropes. There are obviously exceptions to the bad tropes that we will enjoy, and we'll probably mention them as we go. And there are exceptions to the tropes that we love and we think are shit. It's entirely based on how the trope is used. So we're not saying that, like, if you enjoy these, they're inherently problematic. It's just things that we find a little bit annoying.
This is also a lot based on personal preference, too, especially when we get up to, like, the top like best tropes that we enjoy and like also the worst tropes that we like. That is also just a lot of our opinion on what we like to see in dramas. So
yeah, and these aren't ranked inherently.
No,
they're just our own opinions.
We also just kind of put them in an order that we thought would be fun to talk about them too. So like that's kind of where we are. So
the way we're gonna do it is we're gonna go back and forth on the list from one side to the other, and we're gonna see how this goes.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the thing. We tried to have a same list. We want to talk about one. It's not a trope. It is just a thing that happens constantly. It's mainly a set design problem that we dislike, and we're going to talk about bad first, and we'll get into the actual list. Would you like to introduce it, Kayla?
Yeah, so the thing that we always hate to see is when you decorate your house with huge photos of yourself.
Or small,
or
just generally photos of yourself.
Or just generally a lot of photos of yourself.
Because it's always like the 20-something very famous celebrity that lives alone in their massive apartment that has no pictures of anybody else, but only like essentially stock photos of themselves.
Yep.
And one massively over their bed that's like a fucking portrait.
Oh, yeah.
The one I always remember is that there's a massive one in You Who Came from the Stars.
Mm-hmm.
And it is... We're in her bedroom so often in that show, and it's just sort of looking at you. And I'm like, why is this here?
Another one that I always think of recently is Imitation. Where the little bitch baby just has like 7 to 8 photos of himself in his room, in his like dorm living room. And some of them are the same photo, but just like twice or
cropped
more.
Cropped a little differently.
Some of them not even cropped differently. Sometimes it's just like on one wall and then you get it and then it's like framed on a little bedstand. Like it's really not a lot of effort.
I'd rather you just have a blank apartment wall, to be honest. It's different. I will say it is different if it is like a family photo. It is different if it's like a wedding photo.
Or something,
different.
Or if like in a big accomplishment of yours or something. Yeah. But if it's just like just a casual
it looks like
photo
a glamour
of
shot.
You,
it looks like a fucking glamour shot half the time. And it's always like... It happened more in like older like 2010s dramas where it would just be the massive photo over their bed, and I'm like, why would you sleep with that?
It's such a
I would be so uncomfortable.
Interesting choice.
Yeah, so that is just a pet peeve we have. That doesn't inherently make or break the show. You know, Who Came from the Stars has more problems, and so does Imitation has infinitely more problems than that one set design choice that we don't like.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll get to the fact that both of those shows use tropes we hate.
Yes.
But that is just one that we constantly want to talk about. So I think we're going to start with our technically 11th. This is a list of 11 good and 11 bad. You'll see why it's a list of 11 and not 10.
Yep.
But we'll start with the bad. So we can end on good. So our 11th least favorite trope is the Cinderella story.
Mm-hmm.
I think and I'm talking stereotypical girl from like poor girl, abusive step parent or abusive actual parent has to be whisked away damsel in distress style by rich. You again, a lot of it is like your boys over the heirs.
Mm-hmm.
The heirs does it to the T.
Mm-hmm.
What's the other one that does it like to the
like
T?
Cinderella and the Four Knights, clearly a
Cinderella Four Knights obviously is a Cinderella story.
And there is another trope on here that we have that is similar, but I think what really makes the Cinderella story is that they have to be like very poor, and the family situation also has to be bad. Because the family situation being good kind of makes it a different trope at that point.
It's a different trope. Yeah. Or the family situation not being a factor.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the Cinderella story is also very often done, especially now with like high schoolers.
Goblin kind of feels like a Cinderella story in a little bit of a way.
Because like the heirs is a very Cinderella story, obviously. The Boys Over Flowers feels like a in a weird way, it feels like a Cinderella story, depending on which version you're talking about, because her family situation that varies greatly in that show.
Between, what version of
but like you have your really stereotypical like Cinderella and the Four Knights, all of that, where it just feels so overdone. If you play it straight,
it's such a overdone trope that there's not a lot of ways to be creative with it anymore, and it's just like I've seen too much of it and I haven't seen anyone be creative with it in a while now.
Yeah. But here's the thing, because now we're going to go to our 11th favorite trope, which is also the Cinderella story. This is why we have 11. It's because we have very complicated feelings about the Cinderella story. Mm-hmm. Because when it is done well, that story is really fun. Mm-hmm. I love Cinderella and the Four Knights. I think that one is fun. So fun. I think when you play it in more of a romantic comedy aspect, you get really fun shit out of it.
Yeah. But when the Cinderella story turns into more of like a melodrama than it is like just a rom-com, then it's like, we're taking it too seriously now.
Yeah, I think when you play it for laughs, it becomes fun. I think once you play it straight, you get to like the point where I'm just like, all right, give me something. So that's the Cinderella story. Number 10 is really fun. Number 10 is a 2-for-1.
Yep.
Which is fake out deaths and bloodless deaths. I'm sorry. What kills you in a K-drama doesn't make sense.
K-dramas it's so annoying that we're at this point in K-dramas where you cannot trust any death that you see.
No one is
ever dead.
Unless you see a body. Unless I physically see a body, like I can't trust that. Even when you see a body, and here's where I think it all started. For me, I think the point where people started really getting into these fake out deaths of like, no, turns out they were never dead. Turns out it was the Penthouse. The Penthouse has so many fake deaths in that.
The Penthouse is the absolute
that don't
worst.
make any sense.
It's the worst at it. It's man, it's like that's especially season 3 of the Penthouse where we're doing it multiple times.
Look,
sometimes multiple times an episode, and it's just what are we doing here?
Let's think about this. Let's just use the example of the Penthouse 3. In the Penthouse 3, you have a character that is just pushed down the stairs, hits his head, and then goes permanently and fully blind within the next hour. Mm-hmm. We're gonna go with an hour.
Sure.
You then also have a woman who essentially falls off a balcony, it's not a high balcony, it's probably about a story, and then gets impaled by a chandelier.
Yeah.
Doesn't die, is fully fine.
Just wakes up with
fine.
She fakes amnesia. She's
not even real amnesia. Not even real amnesia.
She fakes amnesia after waking up from that. So
how do you get impaled by a chandelier?
And how do you get impaled by a chandelier and then are immediately recovered as fast as they are as well?
Yeah. Plus, then you have the constant trope of, no, your dad, he died when you were young.
Yeah.
Nope, he's been alive this whole time. He actually faked his car accident or some shit.
Right.
I think that death has to have some stakes, because I remember also in the Penthouse 3, where that main, I forget her name, the main woman, the poor woman that got rich. She dies like episode 3 of that season. Spoilers for every show we mentioned, by the way.
Yeah, clearly.
But she dies like episode 3. And we were convinced for the rest of that show that she wasn't
that she
dead.
was gonna come back to life. But no.
Because we never saw a body.
We didn't see a body. And then they do the weird reverse of the fake out death at the end of the Penthouse 3, where they're actually just dead, even though we're pretending they're alive. And that's like equally as bad, I would say.
Yeah, I just think that at this point, I think K-dramas are trying to do so many twists that, like, there is the concept of death doesn't work. I think that for a good show will establish that death is permanent very quickly. Like, I think certain suspense shows, especially like your Devil Judge or your Flower of Evil or something like that, they will kill off characters. Those characters stay dead. The minute that a show starts to tries to get crazy with it, or starts to get like, they think they have ideas, they think they have twists. I'm like, so death means nothing.
It means absolutely
no
nothing.
one is dead. So I don't care about these people. Like, nothing matters. And that also piggybacks on bloodless deaths, where like you'll get shot like 5 times and there's no blood.
Yep.
I understand that this airs on television.
And there are like censorship rules and everything, but But like at that point, don't have him get shot 5 times. Could have, yeah. I was like, you can shoot
Die
him.
a different way.
Like, shoot him once, and that's probably enough.
Yeah. So you want to go with our our 10 best?
Oh, if we didn't make that clear, 11 on good was also the Cinderella story. 11, Cinderella story was on both the good and the bad.
We have complicated feelings about the Cinderella story.
Yes. So number 10 on our good list is the rich people murder drama, which we clearly love. That's very fun.
I love a rich people murder drama.
It's one of my favorite, absolute favorite genres
because
of shows.
Here's
is
the
rich
thing.
people murder.
It's never a fake death.
No.
It's a murder mystery where like the cops can't do anything. They're too rich. So you're just sitting here like, all of these rich people did it. It's like Murder on the Orient Express. All of them did it somehow.
And it's just like the murder also intertwined with all of the like rich people politics. It's just so good. Something about it is so enthralling to me.
And like sometimes you get fun ways of doing it. Like you have your Sky Castle and like your the penthouse, where it's like a very basic murder. Then you get like your what's the one I watched? Graceful Family.
Yeah.
Graceful Family is a surprise twist murder. Like, you don't know it's about the murder until like halfway through the show, where it becomes about the murder. Then you have Mine, where you don't even know who gets murdered for half the show.
Gets murdered,
and like you're
it's
so
like
excited.
You're getting like little clues along the way at the end of each episode.
Like you can you kind of hope it's the guy. Like you kind of hope by the end that the guy that got murdered, because you're like, it should be him, but you don't know for sure. And then you have the added benefit of who did it.
Right.
So much rich people murder shows also,
and I feel like that's a trope that they can still be very creative about. Like I feel like I've seen so many of them at this point. They all feel so different,
but they all work so well. Like you just compare the ones that we talk about constantly, like your Sky Castle
and the Penthouse have very similar themes of like, here's these rich parents with these children that were investing in their futures, but they are completely different shows. Like, not
and then,
much
like,
overlap.
Mine and Graceful Family are kind of similar, where they are like like the upper echelon of rich, like the 1%'s 1%, with like, and they're more of an adult family, but like there's still that interpolitics within the family with adult children.
Yes,
and that's always really fun.
Extra fun too, yeah.
Because like everyone's an adult, and like they're also the only ones that like, I feel like weirdly the rich people murder shows are able to do slightly bloodier deaths, because it's not that there's guns involved, it's not that there's really weapons involved, because these rich people are not out here, getting a mercenary. They're pushing somebody off a balcony. So the blood is realistic in that it's blood out of the back. Like they're not out here stabbing you 15 times.
Right.
Like it's a basic. It feels like, there wouldn't be that much blood. I get it. And it looks good. And it's usually shot very well. Love a rich people murder.
It's so good. It's one of my favorites, the rich people murder.
And then you have, like, etiquette on top of it because you can't have a cop just come in here, like, punch him in the face and be like, did you kill her?
Right.
Like you can in, like, a cop show. This is, like, you gotta have decorum. You gotta talk to them like they're... It's so... adding that level of politics on top of it, I think, is very
it is
fun.
also very interesting that, like, a lot of, like, the cops and, like, the police are just absent from the rich people murder shows just because of how rich they are. It's like...
Yeah, or when they come in, they're, like... very tied, like they're like, they're very polite, almost useless, still like, obviously, I love when, my favorite part is, like, oftentimes the angle they'll take with the cops is that they're extremely frustrated by these people, and can't do anything, and I think that is an extremely realistic way of portraying it, because they can't do anything. And, like, half the time they get away with it. Or the other half of the time, it's so satisfying to watch them, like, lose.
Right. And it's always, like, every time they're around, it is such, like, a minimal involvement they have. It's, like, normally you see them because it would be weird to just not have any sort of, like, police involvement
presence
in these murders that are happening, but they are not the ones who are, like, finding the evidence and all of this of, like, unearthing of, like, facts about the murder and everything. That's normally all of the other rich people that are involved and decide they want to solve it. So
yeah, it's usually like, or one of the servants.
Yeah,
that's also fun because then you have the servant element.
Servant elements are always
the
usually there too.
Yeah, the servants, other than in, like, your Sky Castle where the servants don't play a part.
Right.
In something like, especially Mine and Graceful Family and shows like that.
The Penthouse a little bit.
And the Penthouse to an extent.
They have, like, assistants and shit.
Yeah, their servant aspect, I think, works so well. I would really love to see a K-drama that is rich people murder, but, like, in time period. Like, give me, like, a 60s murder.
Yeah.
Give me, like, a early 1900s manor house. Style, whatever the Korean equivalent of a man, like, pre-World War II. Like, give me something. Give me a period piece.
A period
that's also rich people murder show. Because that sounds fun.
That would be fun.
We're just gonna give Korea a lot of ideas during this podcast about fun ways to do these tropes.
Yes.
Don't do the bad tropes. Get rid of the bad tropes.
Get rid of all of the bad tropes.
Only do the good ones. Speaking of bad ones, our 9th least favorite trope is just the idea of time travel.
Terrible.
I hate it.
Terrible.
And this isn't just shows that are time travel by concept, because I know I'm not going to like those. I don't watch them. The minute you throw time travel as your twist, I'm looking at you, King Eternal Monarch. I hate it. I don't know if this is a thing that you also hate, but I also in time travel lump in the thing where it's like someone dies but then wake up like 20 years earlier or something in a different person's body. Like, I also hate that a lot. Well, the other thing I hate, and this is just one that I think is absolutely pointless, I hate when it's a period show, especially like your really old like Joseon era period shows, but starts with a for no reason 20-minute beginning of a modern girl.
Oh, that's the
getting
worst.
Into some
oh my god,
sort
it's the
of like
worst.
car accident and wakes up, and that factors into nothing.
Yes, because Scarlet Heart is like that. And I'm just like, this adds absolutely nothing. Nothing to this show at all.
Because like you can everything about that show can end. Even the reincarnation part at the end where she is in modern times, I can believe that's just reincarnation.
Right.
I don't give a shit. Why did we have to why in the back of my mind do I have to remember that this girl is apparently a modern girl but has adapted so well no one cares?
It's so bizarre. It's super weird.
It's so stupid.
Yeah, I hate it.
It's so dumb.
I think I've seen exactly 2 shows with time travel that I like, and they're both crime shows.
Yeah.
And it's not even, well, one of them is Signal. Signal is half time travel, because we're not time traveling, we're communicating with the past in Signal, which is a little bit different. And then the other one is Tunnel, and Tunnel is a physical time travel, but the time travel is treated as not like we need to figure out what's causing that and like how to exploit it. Like, it happens to this guy randomly, and he sort of has to figure it out, and he's kind of not even that concerned with the time travel because he's trying to solve a murder. So like it's in there, but again, it's not like
everything else. Like, there is a way to do time travel that I don't hate, But for the most part, I hate it.
Yeah, it's really not good.
For the most part, I find it like because it also just, especially when time travel becomes, there's a difference when time travel is like the basis of your show and you've built your show around the fact that it is time travel.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like Signal and Tunnel and all of that works because that is the premise of the show.
Yeah.
With something like your King Eternal Monarch or even your Scarlet Heart, where it's more of an afterthought,
yeah,
it kind of breaks your show. Because it doesn't make, why is it time travel?
like,
That doesn't make any sense.
Why is it even here to begin with? Like, this is the confusing part with that. It's just like,
it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like, what is the point of the time travel?
And then with the other part where it's like, it's kind of time travel where it's like someone dies and then wakes up in someone else's body some ever years earlier, and then we found this other guy who looks exactly like the boyfriend or some shit. Like, that whole trope is just like, I do not like it. I think it's, I feel like it's been done too many times and they're all the same.
Yeah, and also the fact that it breaks the logic of your show, especially because I don't watch time travel shows as a rule because I know I'm not gonna like them. Many of but when that's also always a factor of when you start watching like one of these like sci-fi shows or like these like semi-fantasy shows and K-dramas, it's such a trope that likes to just randomly appear.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why? Why
and I'm like,
time
is
travel?
there any purpose as to why this has to be here?
Yeah.
Or how it's
the only
relevant
time travel
to the plot?
I don't mind is like similar to like Melting Me Softly, which is kind of time travel. It's just that they were frozen for 20 years, so like they go from like the 90s to like I think it's like 2017.
Right.
So like that's different because it's almost time travel forward, which isn't as bad, especially if you're time traveling forward to a modern era. And you're actually addressing the fact that it's time travel and that it's modern and that these people have to adapt.
Right.
I think just not addressing it's stupid. Scarlet Heart almost makes me angry,
it
though.
Does,
because
it's like the
pointless.
show is fine once you take the time travel aspect out because it's like it's not even relevant. It's just like...
It's just useless.
You only hear about it in the first and the last episode of the show that you forget that that's even an element.
By the last episode, you're like, oh, she reincarnated, and then you remember that,
like no, she got put in this body at the beginning of the show for no reason at all.
Exactly. In a weird way, I'd rather it almost be an isekai, where it's just like, no, just transport them into a fictional world. I don't care. The time travel element makes no sense to me. Especially considering there would definitely be records of her. Just generally.
Yep.
Alright, so shall we talk about a good trope? A good trope we like.
A good trope, now, is when the show ends in a wedding. Because that's always nice.
I love when it ends in like a wedding or a proposal, just because I'm like, it feels like
it gives you the closure that you need to a lot of the romances.
It does.
Yeah.
Also, I love a wedding. I think it's just it's like a nice way for all the characters to be together in one place.
Right.
It's a good way to like update people. It's like, oh hey, the side couple's also there, and they just have like a baby in their arms, and you're like, okay, I get it. I get what happened.
Yes.
It's a good way to just give an update of like what's going on without needing to, spell it out fully.
Like, you can give just like little details, but like when you have a full wedding, it feels like you get a lot of closure, which is nice.
Yeah. And then it's just also the fact of just like, I love I just love like seeing the characters get married. Like, I'm here for romance, man. I love a good romance in my K-dramas, and I just love a good happy ending. We both love and hate the Cinderella story. we love weddings.
We do.
Plus the fact of I love just seeing, because the weddings are always, usually the shows that end in weddings are like your CEO dramas, your CEO poor girl dramas, like your rich people shows. And I'm just like, show me the elaborate wedding.
Yes.
Show me the insanity that is this wedding, because it looks fun.
I want the wedding.
I know, and weddings are always just so chaotic that I think it's a really
what is
fun
the one
way to end a show.
that has the really wild? It's one of the Boys Over Flowers things we watched this year, but I can't remember which country it is. Where the wedding scene at the end is like One of the most confusing weddings I've seen in my
Meteor
life.
Garden, the one where like it's just like, and here is this person you met that walks through
and
this
it feels
door.
like it's like
And
we're in
here
like a
is
weird
just-
concert or something.
Yes.
It's just like
And
it's
here
wild.
is the random sister just
Yeah.
dancing to River for a hot second. And here are all the white guys we met
Yeah.
along the way. Here is everybody we met along the way. And I'm just like, what?
I remember watching that, and I was just like, "Am I still watching the right show? Because like, where am I right
yes,
now?"
you are. Unfortunately, you are. It's a
Ugh,
wonderful
man.
ending to that show. I think it's insane,
Mm-hmm.
but in the best way. I loved it. I think that
It's
show is
great.
so funny. And like, it's a surprise wedding. I don't even know if it's a wedding.
I don't. Yeah,
'cause she doesn't
I
she's
don't
getting
know
married.
if it's fully a wedding or not. It's something.
I think it's an implied wedding, but even though
But this
I think it's
entire
an
weird
engagement.
concert
I think
ceremony,
no,
I don't think it's a
what it
wedding,
is.
yeah.
I think what it is it's an engagement, but she happens to be wearing a wedding dress.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Just accept it. Just accept it, and we're gonna move on. I'm just gonna accept everything that
Yep.
they want to do. So to go on to bad, almost in a weird way, picking up off of what's the exact opposite of a nice wholesome wedding.
Mhm.
At 8, we have workplace harassment.
Workplace harassment never good in any context ever.
But constantly happens in these K-dramas, and no
So
one talks about it.
So it's just everywhere.
Especially when you have the relationship. And this is when we say that everything in these shows is a trope that depends on nuance. Like, your CEO, but like employee relationship. Those can be some of the sweetest ones.
Yeah.
When he is so deliberately pursuing her and she keeps saying no, that's where I'm like, leave her
We
alone.
can't be doing this here. Like it's just. It's in like almost every single show that involves like a business or an office. There is some form
Yeah.
of workplace harassment always there,
Constantly.
and it's like I get it because it happens in real life and it happens like often. So like I get that it's always around, but I also feel like the way that we talk about it is never good.
Correct.
Yeah, good or correct.
No, because we also, but it always ends up with either the workplace harassment is being done by creepy guy that these people don't even want to talk to that eventually has to get like punched out by the male lead, which is like, that adds to the damsel in distress narrative, but it's also still better than when it's part of the like male lead's pursuit of the female lead,
Yeah.
where it's like, don't worry, I'll get her to say yes eventually. I'll just wear her down in the
I'm
workplace.
just like, no, don't.
And I'm your boss.
Stop it.
Stop. The worst one, and the worst one is Love and Leashes, genuinely.
That's
because
always
also
what I think
don't
about
fuck in
now
your
with workplace
workplace.
harassment is Love and Leashes, because it's like, my God, I cannot feel sorry for you people when you're doing this in your
You
place of
should
work.
be fired.
Like, you should be
they
fired.
should be fired.
Like, at the end of that movie, like, both of you should be fired and probably blacklisted also from your, like, field of work.
Yes. Because also, don't fuck in your workplace.
No, don't do
not
it.
fuck at the office.
Don't workplace harass a person and then also, like, have borderline sex in your workplace. Like, maybe that's not a good idea.
That just seems
You know,
wrong.
just
Also,
a
don't
thought.
bring your coworkers into your weird sex games.
No.
They didn't ask
no,
for this.
No one asked for that. It's just that movie is something else. Like, it's really something.
I just think that it's a trope that we don't see often, but it's a very specific trope that when it happens, I hate it.
It's terrible.
Because it happens all the time. A version of it happens anytime you have a workplace office drama. Because a lot of what happens in those shows can be viewed as workplace harassment, and I think it depends on the tone. Sometimes it works, because like if you look at anything in like What's Wrong with Secretary Kim, you can view it through that lens if you really want to, but I think that show like balances it out with with everything else going on, that it kind of works, as opposed to something where it's just creepy. All right, so number 8.
Yep.
For the good.
This is a very specific trope for Sammi, which is all the kids are gay.
This one is very specific, mainly to Thai dramas, where it's a very fun trope that I love, where many times in BL dramas, the side characters include, like, siblings where it'll be like, hey, I'm in college. I have a little brother who's like a year younger than me who's going to the same school, and he's in the side couple.
Mm-hmm.
And like all the kids are gay.
Mm-hmm.
Like you look at this family and you're like, oh shit, all the kids are gay.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like it's a trope. Like it happens to two different families and together. Both the male leads in that have a sibling who's in a different couple in that show.
Mm-hmm.
Happens in Fish Upon the Sky, which is 3 of them. If you just look at Kin Porsche, there's like 3 families in that, and all of their kids are gay.
Yeah.
All of the children are gay. Everyone is gay.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think it's a fun trope, just because it's like, it's so ridiculous, but it's so fun. I think it's just cute. It's so
like no straights allowed in this family.
No
Only
straights
gays.
allowed. And like these parents are just like, all my kids are gay. Parents usually very supportive, but it's truly amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It's also like sometimes you get a surprise all your kids are gay, where like you don't think all the kids are gay, and then it turns out, no, surprise, I once was in a gay relationship too. And it's like, oh shit, all the kids are some kind of at least bi. All the kids are on the queer spectrum.
Yep.
It's great. I just think it's funny because oftentimes it's like a surprise.
Mm-hmm.
That like the third kid is gay. We know the first 2. The third one's a surprise.
Yep.
It's very fun. So then at number 7 for bad tropes, we have the surprise car crash, or like what's also known as the white van of death.
Yep.
Because
oh man,
do Korean people not know how to look before crossing the road?
Apparently, no.
The one I always remember is in True
The
Beauty.
True Beauty
when
one
Eunwoo
is just it just lives
shot into
rent
the
free in my
air.
head always. That True Beauty scene.
Oh, it's amazing. It's an iconic moment in history, but also why did he need to... Because oftentimes the car crash serves no purpose.
No.
Why were they hit by a car?
Every time
They're
there's
fine.
a car crash in a K-drama, I just kind of like roll my eyes because it's so inconsequential to literally any outcome of
Because
it.
either it happens in the first episode and someone is dead,
Mhm.
and that is what the show like revolves around for a little bit, or it happens in like the 13th episode and they're fine and they broke a leg.
Uh-huh.
Or they got, like, temporary amnesia. Because isn't that how, in Boys Over Flowers, he gets his temporary amnesia? Does he get hit by a car?
I think so.
That seems correct.
That seems correct. Yeah, because it's that's all. They always, like, come together in a way. It's the car crash comes with the amnesia, and that's, like, a convenient way for them to give a character amnesia. Is like, surprise, get hit by a car.
Yeah, apparently car crash is the leading cause of amnesia. Everybody knows that, right?
Mm-hmm. Of course, obviously.
Obviously.
That reminds me of also about imitation, where they, for some reason, have that kid in the drama doing his own driving stunts and then flips the car because, of course, he does.
We can also get the extension where it's not that you also just get run over by a car, is that you can also get into a car accident, which I find absolute. The same thing happens.
Mm-hmm.
Usually they'll put you in a car accident if you're old enough to drive. In a getting hit by a car if you're not old enough to have a car of your own. So like the teens get hit by cars, the adults get in car crashes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same thing happens, which is either someone dies horrifically and it's like a thing, or 2, nothing. It's they could have gotten food poisoning and been in the hospital for a couple of days for the amount of change that happens to these characters.
Right.
Like,
Ugh.
it's pointless.
No point at all. I do love that
truly-
one scene from True Beauty, though, because it's just hilarious somehow.
Oh, no,
It
that
is,
is-
like, the
that
most
scene-
hilarious way to get hit by a car, like, ever.
That scene from True Beauty is the only version of this trope that I accept.
Yes.
Because it is in... The thing with True Beauty is True Beauty is the embodiment of many of these tropes.
It is.
But the thing
True
with...
Beauty is
good and bad.
True Beauty is, like,
Good and
in
bad.
on the joke, though.
But yeah, True Beauty knows what it's doing, and that is part of the joke.
Mm-hmm.
It's not out here being serious. Eunwoo is not fucking, like, angel posing as he is shot directly up. Somehow the car didn't push him forward at all, but just directly up.
Mm-hmm.
In, like, weird angel pose. The other kid, second male lead on that show, apparently just, like, off to the side. Eunwoo shot directly up.
Ugh.
As if he's being raptured.
It's just straight up in the air. Just get hit by the car, and then it's just immediately floating
Shot up in the air.
Floating into midair.
I know. It's incredible. But that's part of the joke. And that's like the only version of that I can accept at this point is if you play it for a joke.
Mm-hmm.
Which eventually, like, I think that trope either needs to be put to rest and don't even do it as a joke anymore, because that's also going to start getting old.
Yeah. Because
like, we need a break
because
from
I guess we're always going to continue to give people amnesia, because that's also a thing that we do in K-dramas, but, like, can we do it in a different way than getting hit by a car?
Can they, like, start falling down the stairs for the next, like, 3 years, and we can go back to
because
it?
the car crash is, like, the equivalent of the, like, isekai, like, getting hit by a truck thing now, essentially.
It is the same. Like, my thing is at that point, just... I also hate... We're gonna get to amnesia. Hold on to it.
We will, yeah, put a pin in amnesia, because we'll
put a pin in amnesia, but, like, dear God, like, what's the point?
Mm-hmm.
It makes me also feel like I'm like, is South Korea just very dangerous for cars? Like, are you just gonna die?
Yep.
Is that the problem here? Alrighty. So in 7th place for the I've also find that we have for the bad tropes, you'll find that we're doing like very broad things.
Very broad. The good tropes very specific.
Very specific. Mm-hmm. Because our favorite trope is also badass is afraid of ghosts.
Yeah.
Because it's my favorite joke that they do, which is the fact that you have this badass character. They have no fear. They have gotten shot 4 times.
Yeah.
But, like, they hear a bump in the night and they scream
it's
like a little girl, and I love it.
Yeah.
They're terrified of ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's incredible, and I love it.
It's so much
Again,
fun.
I think of Kin Porsche when that happens. That's really funny.
Yeah.
I just think that being afraid of ghosts is a really funny fear,
mm-hmm.
especially for, like, these big, strong men.
I know, and it's like, and I think it's just, like, that's what a fault they default to giving to a lot of those characters is like, well, let's make them afraid of ghosts, and that'll be fun.
Because they can't be afraid of, like, real things,
right.
or else, like, the show kind of falls apart a little bit, and I'm like, yeah, that's fine. But also, being afraid of ghosts is really funny.
It's so funny.
I love it. So at number 6, this is something that is the K-drama trope.
It is the K-drama trope. This exists in almost every single K-drama with a romance.
And I want it to end.
Same.
Because it's just second male lead is better.
Yes.
Now, here's the thing with it. I want to preface this by saying I don't want the second male leads to be worse.
No.
I want the male leads to be better. I want the male
leads to stop being sociopaths.
Little bitch babies.
Yeah, sociopaths are like little bitches. Like, the male leads of these K-dramas are just terrible.
Because, like,
the
second male leads are... usually, like, they have their own flaws. They're kind of they have a little bit of the nice guy trope going on, which isn't great.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, they're fine people. They're
the second
very
male
friendly
lead
to the main
is normally
lead,
like a functioning human being. Where the first male lead has to have some massive flaw they have to work through over the course of the drama, which I get. But, like, they're always like a sociopath. And it's so annoying.
Yeah, it makes no sense to me because, like, the second male lead, you know he is going to lose the girl,
mm-hmm.
and it's fine. But at no point do they decide that the male lead needs an attitude adjustment.
Yeah.
He just stays being an asshole the whole time. And this is why it's like, the problem is that the second male lead is better. Because, like, you have this guy that in comparison is just so much of a better person. There
is one drama I know of that has actually a better first male lead and a worse second male lead, and that's Weightlifting Fairy. Or not Weightlifting.
Yes.
It's Weightlifting Fairy and also Strong Woman. Those are the
Strong
two
Woman,
that the first male lead is actually a much better character than the second male lead. Yeah.
And I would say he's boring, but I would think that in Extraordinary You,
mm-hmm.
I wrote in terms of
yes.
relationship, second male lead is a way more interesting character.
Right.
But he should not get the girl in that show.
More interesting, but
he is a sociopath.
Yeah, he's terrible. Actually terrible.
He's a sociopath.
Yes. And it's like, so, like, you can clearly make a very good show without making your first male lead so dislikable that your second male lead, like so likable. It's clearly a better person just generally.
Yeah.
But it's just, I hate it because I'm
Because
so
I
done
think
of watching these romances with like a horribly toxic male that has to like figure out all their attitude problems and shit. Like,
that's why I've sort of stopped, like, in terms of what I've learned, I go to different countries for different things. Like, I don't, Korean romances, the second male lead is very much a problem in Korea and not so much a problem in, say, your Chinese shows, where they don't really have that much of a love triangle, or it's a love triangle that gets resolved fairly quickly. And it's just,
yeah, I feel like Chinese dramas
on?
have like pretty clearly set up like a second couple instead of it being a second male lead. There's just a separate couple that are like the
there's
secondary
just a separate
characters.
couple that is usually like friends or siblings or workplace partner. Like they're connected to the main couple. They're having their own side story.
Yes,
and like that's fine, but like they don't have the bad second male lead problem.
Because what also always happens with second male lead is that second male lead just ends up alone. Yeah. Second male lead does not have an ending because if there's a side couple, it's just completely separate people. It's a separate person. So
yeah, it's like third male lead and like and female lead's friend. It's never that second male lead ends up with anybody. They usually end up alone, which is sadder and makes you feel worse for him.
Yep.
Because he's such a better person.
He's such a better person, and they just end up alone because they're wasting all this time. And then the female lead is always going to go to the more toxic person.
Who sucks.
Yeah. Oh, I hate it.
It's awful. And again, we're not saying that we want second male leads to be worse people. We just want male leads to not be so... They don't need to be perfect. They can still be, like, go to True Beauty. Look at True Beauty. I still think Eunwoo is, in terms of both of those... Like, they're kind of on equal playing field for me in terms of people I like, because both of them have problems that need to get worked through. Mainly dead Channy problems. That's a separate... It's a separate issue, but, like, both of them have issues to go through. And that's the thing with second male leads. Second male leads also need problems.
Yes.
I like second male leads that also have something to work through, because they're also somehow angry.
Yes. It's like
that's the good thing with Extraordinary You and True Beauty. Both of those second male leads have shit going on in their lives.
Exactly. The other thing with this is like whenever I feel like the second male lead thing, I always think of like all of the shows that Lee Junyoung has done and how his character is just like absolutely terrible sociopath, and then your second male lead in all of his like weird like sweet. K-pop, K-dramas are just like, it's just like a sweet guy, like just a sweet boy, and it's just, it's like, yeah, he's got nice guy vibes going on, but he also isn't isn't like the full stereotypical nice guy, like he just is a nice guy, like actually.
Yeah, like I think about Imitation, and look, did I love Yoonho on Imitation? No. Did I think he was maybe a better option than Lee Junyoung? Yes.
And then
also,
and then
I just think that in Let Me Be Your Night, she should have ended up with nobody.
Yeah.
I think that in Let Me Be Your Night, she should have ended up with nobody, because that is just a lie.
There was a lot of weird
Everything
shit
was
happening
built on
in
a
that
lie,
anyway, yeah.
and I don't know what the age situation is.
That's
on that
also
show.
The other problem is the age situation is probably not.
The age
great
situation
either.
seems wrong.
Yeah.
The age situation seems wrong. Then again, the only person I did really like in Let Me Be Your Night was Dong Hyun. Let's be honest.
Very cute, yes.
Very sweet. Everyone that wasn't Lee Junyoung, I really, really liked.
Yes. Everyone else in that show, great. Lee Junyoung, a sociopath.
And the female lead, not my favorite.
No.
But yeah, I just think that you have to make him somewhat likable. You can't just make him insane.
Yes. On a similar level, on our number 6 on our good tropes is bromances. Because those are so fun. I love them.
I love when the male... Because oftentimes, a male lead is either, like, has no friends, which I hate, because I think it's useless, or they get a bromance, and I always infinitely prefer when they have a bromance. I would
so much rather it be a bromance, yeah.
Yes. And, like, I don't even care if the bromance is with the second male lead. I don't
doesn't have
care.
to be with the second male lead.
It doesn't have to be with the second
could
male
just
lead.
be with
I
a
just need
person.
him to have a friend.
Yes.
Because, like, oftentimes, like, you only see the male lead when he's interacting with the female lead, and you don't really see his life. And I'm like, do you have friends?
A lot of times the answer is no.
No.
Because they are sociopaths, so they have no friends.
Exactly. Even if it's, like, with a subordinate, like, in, what's a business proposal.
Mm-hmm.
He has this fun bromance with his, like, it's his friend, but it's also, like, his assistant business partner or something.
Right.
And I'm like, no, they're great together. I love them. And he's in the second couple in that show, and that's great.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, I think that just having the male lead, it also, again, makes the male lead better because he is able to, like, bounce off of somebody.
Right.
We keep going back to True Beauty constantly, but the fact that Eunwoo is in a bromance with the second male lead makes that show work because both of them are kind of little bitches to each other.
Strong Woman also has a really fun romance with first and second male lead. Like, that's also a really fun one.
Yeah. Weirdly, yeah, Strong Woman is fun. Weightlifting Fairy has a weird relationship between the male lead and the second male lead. Choice was made with that show about those relationships.
Yep.
A choice was made. But no, I think generally speaking, I just like when there are relationships in K-dramas. I think that's what it kind of boils down to.
Mm-hmm.
Because so often you get these K-dramas where it almost seems like these two leads are isolated. They have no friends. They kind of don't have families. I'm like, what is going on in your lives? Do you not have anyone to speak to?
And I also feel like that's a terrible example to set. Yeah. It's like you have nothing going on with life except for this one guy who's like kind of sociopath that is a romantic interest.
Yeah. So yeah, otherwise that's a very fun little trope. Like bromances, like it doesn't have to be homoerotic, but oftentimes it also is.
It also is a little bit. So that's also fun. Like slightly problematic, but you know.
Yeah. So number 5 for both of these lists are very similar.
But different.
We grouped these together for an answer. Yes. So at number 5 on the bad list, and we're going to talk about these at the similar time, but I'll introduce them one at a time. So at number 5, we have that the mother-in-law is insane. I hate when there is this, like, the couple gets together in, like, episode 10, and there's still 6 episodes left because you gotta get through, like, this mother-in-law that's trying to kill her somehow.
The mother-in-law, this is always in, like, the rich people shows where the mother-in-law just needs to sabotage. Or, like, the
matriarch is insane, like, trying to, like, physically kill them somehow or, like, destroy her life. Mm-hmm. I'm just like, what's going on with you? What's happening? You see, but also at the same time, she also hates her son. That's the other thing. It doesn't come from a method of protection. It comes from a point of, I want power and I want to control my son.
Yep.
So it's not even that, because that is what differentiates it from our 5th best trope, which is having a crazy mom.
Mm-hmm.
Because crazy mom is usually the female lead's mother, or the male lead's mother, whatever, but it specifically comes from, I think, a place of protection, where they're like, oh, I want you to go to school, or I want you to have this in your life, I want to protect you, as opposed to my mother-in-law's insane, which is that, like, I want to kill your boyfriend or girlfriend because they took you away from me in a weird, like, reverse Oedipus complex type way. That's the main difference to me.
Mm-hmm.
It gives very much the difference between, like, the family in, like, Korean Boys Over Flowers versus the mom in Thai Boys Over Flowers.
Yes. That is true. That's the difference here.
Because the main girl's mom in Korean Boys Over Flowers is crazy. She's insane. But, like, the male lead's mom in Thai Boys Over Flowers,
that's a different vibe. Yeah.
It's a different vibe. Was, like, fully okay with him, was fully okay with him having no friends and also, like, being fully an amnesiac.
So our next on the bad list is childhood best friends who are suddenly face blind as adults.
So this is a very specific thing that happens all the fucking time, which is that, okay, so usually a lot of times it's in like college or in the workplace. Two characters come in, they have their meet cute, and then as the show progresses, we learn that they were somehow childhood best friends who had like deeply profound impacts on each other.
Yes.
But apparently don't remember
can't
each other.
recognize each other as adults for some reason.
Not even that they can't recognize each other, because, like, yeah, sometimes, like, people change as they grow up. Didn't remember each other's names.
Truly.
Nothing. Truly nothing
awful,
behind the eyes.
yeah.
And it's not that they were friends when they were 6. Sometimes they were friends when they were in, like, middle school.
Yeah.
Like, if you're, like, 6, sure, you forget people. But, like, and that added backstory doesn't
add anything. It adds absolutely nothing.
It's just a way to add like half hour to the show where they can just talk about cute little flashbacks.
It's just like you're info dumping a flashback, and I'm like, cool, this adds literally nothing to their current relationship because they can't remember it anyway. So
yeah,
what feels
and then also a similar... it doesn't become a plot point ever.
No, it's just like a fun thing that they maybe figure out eventually, but it's like
oftentimes don't, because like they will meet each other's parents. And the parents won't say anything. And I'm like, I mean, I get you wouldn't remember your kids' friends, but like, dear God, nothing?
It also feels like a similar like thing to that, but I think is worse in my opinion, where it's like, where they weren't even childhood best friends, but there is just, they had like one interaction as a child, but it was like a really somehow profound interaction. And then they realize, but then apparently they will realize who they are at some point in time. And I'm like, then it feels like it's really adding nothing to the story, because it's like, you've talked to each other once, and we're gonna pretend like this one event that you have met each other was like life-changing enough for some reason. Or
like they're the oftentimes this will happen in a crime show where they're the person they like got kidnapped with.
Yeah.
Like they were kidnapped at the same time, and I'm like, I feel like that's a profoundly impactful statement.
Right.
Also, at what point do you like bring like they just don't ever bring it up. And I'm like, are you just not going to tell them you were kidnapped?
It's very confusing.
Do you have no trauma about that whatsoever? It just seems like a weird trope that, like, it adds weird complications to your story that you have to address that's not useful.
It does not add anything.
So, everyone's face blind. But you want to know what's a good thing? Getting drunk.
Mm-hmm.
Our fourth best drama is just the getting drunk scene in every show. And then also having to deal with your drunk future partner.
Yes.
Because I think that's really fun.
Because I also feel like the way that is almost always framed is in a positive way. Where no one... Yeah. It's like rarely ever, if ever, framed in a way where like someone's taking advantage of someone when drunk. No, it is never that,
Because like never at any point, usually, unless they're both very drunk, do they ever go further than like, hey, this really drunk person kissed me and I've learned this new information and now I have to deal with like having this information that like, do they like me? Do they not? It's usually that aspect.
Yeah.
It's never like, hey, we slept together while she was really drunk.
Right.
It's never
that. Because then if that was what was most common with the drunk scenes, like that would be bad. Like we'd have that on the bad list. Yeah.
But also like 9 times out of 10, all you get out of a drunk scene is them very cute. One person really cutely having to like piggyback them back to their house, and it's adorable. Mm-hmm.
They more often than not, it gets turned into a very cute scene. So
yeah. Like, the worst thing that happens is that, like, someone ends up, like, throwing up on someone's shoes. Mm-hmm. Which I think is, again, it adds to it. It's a funny scene. It's a cute scene. Right.
There's also like, occasionally sometimes where someone's, like, getting drunk at a convenience store and they're just, like, on the street and then they have to go take care of that situation.
Yeah. Or someone is just, like, stumbling around on the street and just, like, you know... trying to like getting into trouble, and they just gotta be like, okay, now I gotta pick you up. We gotta like, now it's the piggyback scene, and it's very cute. Mm-hmm. And then like you deal with it. It usually becomes inconsequential because most of the time that second person doesn't remember.
Yeah.
Or it's the start of your relationship, which is great.
Mm-hmm. Very cute. We're back around to the bad tropes, and we're finally where we have amnesia. We're back
You
to
know how
amnesia.
we put a pin in amnesia?
Yep.
Take the pin out. We got
We
it.
got
I
back
hate
to
it.
amnesia.
I think
it's fucking awful.
What the fuck? It's awful. I hate it. But I feel like we're not using it as much because it's not like 2003.
Mm-hmm.
But dear God, why?
Yeah.
Why was it ever a thing? Why do they have to have short-term memory loss? It's always used to just, again, undo the couple getting together and make the show like 2 episodes longer.
Right.
Because all of the time is that the couple got together, the couple is very happy, one of them gets amnesia, they forget everything, they're like, no, I would never date you, poor girl.
It's
Ugh.
always like
And then,
late show cop-out to add drama
Yes.
right before the end, and I'm like, this is unnecessary. Like, we don't need
And then
this.
they like get, half the time they get their memories back in
the same
last episode.
or in the same episode where they get amnesia too, or
Yeah.
it's like never
Or
lasts
it's
long.
Or it's the last episode, so you end up with a super rushed last episode
Ugh.
that just has them also getting all their memories back, and you're like, why?
Mhm.
At this point, why couldn't they get their memories back before, and we could actually have a finale instead of this bullshit?
I think that's what I like so much about I think it's Meteor Garden.
Yes, Meteor Garden.
Just takes out the amnesia plotline and actively makes fun of it, and I was like, yes. This is good. I like this.
They make reference to it, but they don't do it
because he fakes amnesia in the hospital, but but we don't ever.
He
actually
fakes it
have
for
a
like
thing
a
where
hot
he's in
second
amnesia.
just to tease her about it, and I thought that was the perfect way to do it because I cannot. It's so useless because you know it doesn't amount to anything. You know they're gonna get their memories back. And you know nothing's gonna change.
Mm-hmm.
It also is usually in the show, it usually is paired up with the crazy mother-in-law, because the crazy mother-in-law takes advantage.
Yes.
And you're like, why?
What are we doing
things
this
I
for?
hate. And then you just have to watch the female lead get sad for like 40 minutes, and I'm like, why?
Why are we doing this?
I hate it.
That's a trope that I feel like really we have to stop doing it.
And I also think it's a trope that most people are done with.
Yeah.
Everybody hates it when it happens. Luckily, there were less and less shows. Either the show has amnesia as a beginning plot point, which is like less egregious because at least you know that it's there.
Right.
Where like amnesia's like a plot point in the show. Or 2, it's like fake amnesia at the beginning of the show where I'm like, even better, perfect.
Yeah.
No one actually has amnesia.
Late
or
show
2,
amnesia,
they're just avoiding doing amnesia.
Late show amnesia, we need to stop that. Like, stop that entirely.
Mid to late show amnesia is the worst thing.
The worst type of amnesia.
It's the worst. It's one of the worst things, period. I hate it. So then for a good trope, we have something very similar to your Cinderella story, which is a rich boy, poor girl drama.
I feel like the big distinction here is that this is like where all your like hot young CEO shows are.
Yes,
Rich boy, poor girl.
This is your a business proposal. This is your
strong woman is here.
Strong woman. This is all of that stuff where you're like, CEO, this hot CEO.
This is rich boy,
Yeah. And like there's a point up there also where this is also kind of, if you want to also go with the opposite doesn't really work because like the opposite would be shows like Crash Landing, where I feel like her money doesn't like, I feel like when the woman makes more money it's like less of a thing than when the man makes more money. And it's like,
it's also Crash Landing specifically has also got such a weird dynamic because her money doesn't matter when she's in North Korea, and like the man is like the guy in that show is almost the more rich person in that show anyway.
In North Korea. Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, no, rich guy, poor girl dramas, yes, they are a stereotype. Yes, you can fall into stereotypes of like your damsel in distress and everything else. But you know what? When done well, that shit slaps.
Yes.
That shit slaps.
And it's like, I feel like a lot of those are, like, it's like where a lot of your, like, office romances type thing are, but I feel like, again, like, with the workplace harassment, they normally don't have the workplace harassment problem either.
No, because even with, like, it's always usually something like, like your What's Wrong with Secretary Kim, where it's like he's her direct boss, or like your Shooting Stars, where like he's the celebrity that we represent, so he's richer, but like, you know, it's great. I love it. I think it's so fun.
I think it's a fun dynamic. This is another one where it's like similar to like the rich people murder thing, where I feel like it feels like you could just, like, it could get old really fast, but I do feel like there's a lot of different ways that it's been done and done really well.
Because I think that there's a lot of, the way that they are rich
is always
wildly. A little bit different. Varies greatly. The relationship they have, because sometimes it says she's his employee, sometimes she has no relation to his work whatsoever. Sometimes, like, he needs to woo her, sometimes she's wooing him. I think that all, like, there's so many variables within just the basic rich boy poor girl show.
Yes.
Because it also, it's like, is he like a sweet puppy dog like in Strong Woman, or is he like a cold calculated asshole like in not an asshole, but like cold, is he like cold like in What's Wrong with Secretary Kim? Like there's always this, there's a lot of variables.
And then in like Shooting Stars, he's like kind of just like an arrogant asshole, but it's
and he's arrogant. Or is he more like just cold but with a heart of gold, like a business proposal? Like there's so many variables.
Yes.
That I think it's really fun just to watch.
It is, and I do think that this trope has produced like some of the best like rom-com K-dramas for sure.
Absolutely. And like the thing with it, by the end, it just so happens to be rich guy poor girl, because unlike the Cinderella story, the money aspect almost feels inconsequential.
Yeah, the money aspect does seem like it has like little to no effect on the actual like rom-com element.
Yeah, because like he is rich and he does take her on these like extravagant dates, but she's also not dirt poor.
Yes,
like she is middle class.
This is like it's where we say poor girl, but it's like just in comparison to the CEO that is also present. Yeah.
That's the other thing of just like once it becomes like the money aspect is a problem and like a big issue, that's like your Cinderella story, which is more questionable. But like when it's just like CEO with girl, like that's just fun. So then we get to these top two in both good and bad are genuine. The other ones are mishmash of like good and bad. We just wanted to put them together. These two good and these two bad are the two best good and the two best bad.
Yes.
That's our favorites.
Yes.
So at number 2 for the bad, we have maybe my personal least favorite trope, which is girl pretends to be boy.
Yeah.
I hate those shows.
It's so bad.
It's
bad, especially I feel like it's a trope that we've gone away from in recent times, but like, my god, is it not
I feel like it comes up every once in a while where there's like one show with it. I feel like there was a point in the early 2000s where there were a few, like you had your Coffee Prince, what's the one with Minho? It's like, it's a To the Beautiful You.
Oh, yeah.
You had You're Beautiful. You had all of those shows and I can't stand them. I hate them. The only one that's semi-decent was Coffee Prince, and that was because there was somewhat of a reason to do it.
Yeah.
Like, she needed the job. And I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. But why? Just why? And when that is the premise of the show, I hate it. Because it's very, or on High School Host Club, but way worse.
Yes.
Because apparently we have to keep it a secret from everybody for some reason, and I'm like, why?
But why?
Why is it a secret from everybody?
Right.
Who cares? What's going on? And it's never believable, and it always looks bad, because they have to still make the actress pretty.
Yep.
So she doesn't look at all like a guy.
Yep.
And it's just, I don't know, it's very trying to be She's the Man, and even in She's the Man, it's like, that works for a 2-hour movie, not a 16-episode show.
And they also feels like it's either very blatantly or like a little bit homophobic as well. Every single one of them, yeah.
I feel like they try to go for like Mulan level, where it's like, is it da-da-da-da-da, everyone's confused, but like very blatantly are the guys just like, no, I can't like this dude. Am I gay?
Yeah.
No.
And it's like a crisis, and it's
I'm
just,
like,
yeah.
Shut the
I also feel like this happens in a lot of, like, historical shows as well.
Yes.
I feel like it's a little bit less egregious in that, because there is, in like the time period, there's like a social aspect to it that it is like more of like a Mulan type thing where there's a social aspect element to it.
Yeah.
Where there's like an element of sexism in there, so I find those a little bit less bad, but it's still like it's just an entire genre of show I don't go out of my way to watch ever.
I actively avoid it. I think that that aspect of it in the historical show, it's less egregious.
Yeah.
I don't like it, but it's less. I understand.
Yeah, like
more.
Just like sort of icky feeling I get about it in like more modern shows isn't as bad in a historical setting.
I just find it useless. I think it's overplayed trope. I can't believe we have that many shows that fall into that trope.
Mm-hmm.
And I just find it boring. The same jokes happen.
They're like not, it's like, they're never funny. Yeah.
Because you have to play that show as a comedy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just never funny.
Ugh.
Alright. So now we get to a good trope. And this is this a trope or just a subgenre? I don't know, but I'm gonna go with it.
I think it's probably a subgenre, but you know.
But it's just fucking melodrama.
Mm-hmm.
I love melodrama, man.
Yep.
I love when you have these, like, heightened reality bullshit of just, you gotta go crazy.
Yeah.
I love when the rich people are so rich that nothing can touch them. I love when the poor people are so poor, somehow this girl is working 8 jobs and somehow there's time in the day to do that.
Yep.
Just, it's so good.
I feel like it is, like just an entire subgenre of show, but I do find it to be one of the most interesting genres for me anyway. Because I love the drama and the suspense.
Yeah, because the romances are fun in Korea, but I find myself watching a lot of the Chinese romances more just because the love triangle isn't there.
Right.
But, like, Korea does some of the best melodrama. You couldn't get the first 2 seasons of The Penthouse anyone else. Yeah. You also couldn't get the 3rd season of The Penthouse anyone else, but we
don't talk about the 3rd season of The Penthouse.
We talk about 3rd season of The Penthouse all the
We
fucking
talk about
time.
how bad it is, but, like, if you
garbage.
separate the first 2 seasons, it's, like, such a phenomenal show.
Yeah. It is truly a good show if you don't think about that 3rd season.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, even things like Save Me, The Devil Judge, stuff like that where you're just going for crazy. Korea does crazy well.
They do.
Like, you can't have fucking, like, serial killer Lee Joon-gi and serial killer Lee Sang-gi.
Both.
And serial killer Dio. Our favorite
trio of serial killers.
They're wonderful. Korea needs to do we've talked about this. I want a serial killer show that is Lee Sang-gi, Dio, and Channy as serial killer adoptive brothers. They look nothing alike. I'm aware. Adoptive brothers being hunted down by cop Lee Joon-gi.
Yes.
That's another show that I
need to happen.
That's the show we're pitching.
Yes.
So Korea, you can take that with
just take it. I just want it to exist, really. So
I don't even credit us. We don't want it. Yeah. Just do it. Just make it.
Please.
I don't care. Just do it.
I would love that.
Yes. So yes, melodrama. Korea makes some of the best melodrama.
Melodrama just is generally one of my favorite genres of shows to watch to begin with. So.
I mean, I love a good romance. I probably love a good romance, but, like, in terms of K-dramas, they make some of the best melodrama.
I love a melodrama.
I don't even need romance in some of those shows. I would prefer when they don't do it.
No romance in the melodrama, yeah.
Because I feel like the romance just becomes, like, too much. Alright, so...
The worst trope ever.
Trope. The trope that we
truly cannot stand.
And also the trope that for a while we didn't have a name for, but, like, once we figured out what it was tagged on in my drama list,
it made sense.
We were like,
everything made sense.
Oh, I hate it. I hate it more. It's interspecies romance.
Yep.
I hate. Now, interspecies romance covers a very wide variety of
wide range. Because it covers, like, aliens,
human and ghosts, robots, aliens, vampires, werewolves,
reaper beings,
gods, like your fairy, gumeho,
type
demon
thing, yeah, and it's
thing,
like if
different
people
spirits
who turn into animals, like
yeah, you're like shapeshifters, you're
werewolves,
holograms,
yeah, vampires, you know, all of the
vampires,
traditional
werewolves,
stuff like that, yeah.
all of that stuff. So that is what is video game characters, manhwa characters, like that I include in interspecies
Yes.
romance just because that's not a person,
Yes.
and that is
Fictional
also
character,
in the
yes.
thing I hate. Yes. Does not include something like Extraordinary You where they're all manhwa characters,
it has to be
because that's not interspecies.
one person has to be a human in all of these, yeah.
Everyone else must, the person must be a human.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I hate it. It's the
Awful.
worst thing in the world. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it.
So bad. It's, like, oh my god. And it's just, every show that we've talked about that has this as a thing, always there is some type of problem with the romance because of the interspecies aspect of the romance. I'm not interested in, like romance with a robot. Like, that is not at all
I actively hate it because I'm like, you cannot be in a relationship with a robot.
Or like a guy or a person you can turn into a cat. Like, that's also weird. Like, I don't like that.
My Love from the Stars, fine. Legend of the Blue Sea, no. That's weird My Little Mermaid things. I don't like A Korean Odyssey. Mm-hmm. Tale of the Nine-Tail was also questionable.
I've never actually
but, like,
watched one where the person's like a Gumio, so like I don't know. I don't have a strong opinion on the Gumios.
I watched Tale of the Nine-Tails. It was not great. I think that there's just the thing with it is that the main issue with it is that the person playing the creature in this whole thing has to act like this mystical, not human creature. Yeah. You know what would make that really hard to do? Have any form of chemistry with a different person.
Yes.
You cannot act otherworldly and inhuman and then convincingly perform, like, acts of love, which is, like, a very human emotion.
I think the type of interspecies romance I've had the least problems with is, like, the godly being Grim Reaper ones.
Yeah.
Because because this is a genre I just try to avoid generally, but I have seen a couple where, like, the person is a Grim Reaper. Or, like, a god.
like, Do Your Service is pretty good.
Fine. Also, like, Black is mostly a crime drama, but that is also, like, one of them's a Grim Reaper, and that's, like, fine.
I think my least favorite is always Robot.
I hate
Robot
robots.
is the worst
get
one.
The robots
because
out.
That's not a, like...
My least favorite... my least favorite is probably when they're, actually, like, an animal. Like a cat. Like, that's the one where I'm like, nope. Can't deal with that.
I've actively avoided even watching those, because the ones I have seen is when they are actively a robot, and I'm like, that's not that how are you what logically is the long like term
doesn't
here?
Work. Like, you can't, it does not you can't do it.
The one I probably have the least issue with, and I think that's just because of the media I consumed as a young teen, and like when we were raised as Vampire, Vampire just seems like fine to me. Like, Vampire and godly being is fine.
Right.
It's the problem is when you start getting into less and less human.
I don't like robots. I don't like
robots
aliens.
Are not people.
I hate sci-fi as a genre to begin with. Like, that's just the thing I never will watch. So anything involving aliens is just like a hard no for me from the beginning.
Alien is a problem. I don't like mermaids just because all the mermaids shows I've even tried to watch just actively are bad.
I feel like the problem with the mermaid stuff, though, is the logistics of a person being a mermaid are just so hard to work around a romance unless it's taking place, like, in the ocean.
The other thing with it is that very often they try to do the Little Mermaid thing where they can't talk and act like a child. And I'm like, no. At that point, I don't want it.
I stopped watching Legend of the Blue Sea because I'm like, I'm getting, like, this... Same. I'm, like, getting absolutely nothing out of this show. Like, it's just weird, yeah.
You get bad vibes off Legend of the Blue Sea. But, like, and, like, Ghost is usually okay, because usually Ghost shows either end with the ghost being brought back to life, which is a good ending, or the ghost moving on to the next life, and it's sad ending.
Yes, and I'm fine. I'm fine with both of those. Like aspects
both of those.
ghost.
That's really a better way to end this, as opposed to like, I'm just gonna fuck this robot.
Right.
I hate
the
that.
Robots,
I hate it so much.
Yeah, the robots really, and I feel like if anything, we're just gonna get more things about robots.
Robots and holograms,
and I'm just
I hate.
No, I can't do it.
It's robots, holograms, and AIs, and I ain't into
I
any
can't
of it.
even imagine if we
Can
get
you
an
imagine when we
AI.
get the
Oh
AI?
my god, I can't. I can't deal with that.
The AI makes me upset.
I know it's gonna happen too. Like I know they're gonna make a fucking K-drama with an AI, and I'm gonna hate it so
I'm shocked
much.
it hasn't already happened.
Honestly.
But yeah, so that's that one. And then we have my favorite trope. This is just my favorite thing ever. I love a arranged marriage / contract marriage / forced relationship.
Yes.
I think it's just such a fun way to do these type of shows. Just because you get fun dynamics. You get someone falling in love even when they don't want to.
Because I feel like a lot of those go from like enemies to lovers type of thing, and that's like also like one of my favorite genres of romance to begin with. So that's always very
you got
fun.
your enemies to lovers. You have like forced proximity because like you know, and like usually they just fall in love and everyone's happy. And usually in your arranged marriage / your like contract marriage, you don't. A lot of times you don't end up with a love triangle.
You don't, no, because there's clearly like one thing that's going on here.
Yeah. A lot of that is also very common in like your Chinese dramas. I love those. Those are also very fun.
Like a similar realm to that is like forced, not even like forced relationship, but like forced like roommates type of a thing as well.
Yeah.
That's also fun.
I love your like marriage of convenience or like your because like a business proposal is like
that's
that,
one of
that
that's
just
in
came
that
out.
realm,
Like that's like more of a relationship of convenience, not of love, that turned into love. I love it so much. I think it's just such a fun.
It's like such a fun trope for like rom-coms, honestly.
Yeah, because like it never like it subtly builds up. Like you don't have it. I always prefer it to like your insta love.
Yeah. Yep.
Or like your love at first sight thing.
I just feel like it's a good way to like just build like a relationship and like character development through that setting. I feel like it's a really easy and like a fun way to do that. And
yeah, I think it's just such a fun way to do it. It's so and then there's also the creativity to it, because it's like you can do it in like a high school setting. You can do it in like you can do it at any point. All the settings work, but like the specifics of what happens is always different. How each of them reacts to it is like a fun mix and match of like whether someone's happy. You know what? Sometimes they're just both really enthusiastic.
Yeah.
And like, it's just really fun. Sometimes they both hate it, and like that's also fun. I think it's just like it's not always the same dynamic, which would be really boring.
Right. I feel like that's the thing with like a lot of the tropes that we have on the good list, is that yes, they're specific in a way, but there's like so much like creativity that you can have with them as well.
Like
which makes them like new and interesting.
Yeah. The problem with a lot of the tropes we have on the bad list is that they've been done the same way so often.
Yes.
And like the tropes I like are ones where like you go off the rails. So that's been our list of good and bad K-dramas.
Woo.
Or good and bad K-drama tropes, my apologies.
Tropes.
But
very fun.
Again, so many of even the bad tropes, there have been good shows made with them. So like they're not an inherent list of like, if this show has this, we will love it. But it's just sort of a guide to sort of what I look for in shows.
Yeah. And just like
if I know that there's a trope I like in it, maybe I'll check it out more, as opposed to something that I know has time travel.
Yes, or like robot romance. Like,
robot
don't want
love.
that. Don't want anything to do with that.
We'll say robot love different than pretend robot. Like, I'm not a robot. Good show.
Because not actually a robot, but are you human too? That's a robot.
Bad show. Actually a robot. Yep. She ends up with a robot. How does that work?
Logistics of that, who's to say? Now that we put into the universe that there's probably going to be an AI romance, I'm just like really upset about it.
Netflix is going to make it.
Netflix would make it.
Because didn't Netflix make My Hollow Love or
Oh
whatever it's
yeah,
called?
I think so.
It's gonna be there's gonna be an AI, and then somehow we're either the
It's gonna
ending
be
of
like
that.
a
I'm gonna
fucking
bet
like
it now.
AI K-pop idol or something.
Yeah.
Stupid
Here's the
too.
thing. I'm gonna bet it now how this is gonna end. Either they download the AI into like a semi-robot body, or two, we all sort of download our consciousness into weird AI land, and that's what's happening. It doesn't.
There's
end
no
with
way where this
how it
ends
should
well.
end. No,
There's no
it
situation
ends
where that
terribly.
ends well. But yes, that has been our favorite and least favorite K-drama tropes. We are available on all major podcasting platforms like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We also have a YouTube channel where we post all of our episodes along with fun clip videos occasionally as well. We don't have a consistent schedule for that anymore, but they come out, whenever we feel like it, essentially. With that, we will see you in the next episode. Bye!
Bye!